How's it going, everybody? I'm Telkiney, the Nerd Navigator, and I just want to make a really quick video on ESO. I just recently started playing ESO, and there's a lot of things that aren't readily told to you, or um, that some people that maybe make videos that have played this for a long time forget that there's some things that weren't so obvious. So I have a lot of recent new friends that are also joining me in ESO, thanks to the one-time real update that was just launched pretty recently. So I want to get in and show you around a little bit to give you kind of some first basic stuff that may not be really apparent. So I'm gonna start with my crafter. Now, anyone can craft in the game. There's no limit to what crafting profession you take, like there is in say World of Warcraft. Um, the only limit is how many skill points you want to invest in crafting rather than your combat abilities and so forth within the game. What I did is I wanted this character that you're seeing right now to be my main character. I thought that at the time, but after some playing around, I found a different class and build that I really liked, and so I was gonna go with that. But I had invested time in crafting on this character, which you'll find at the bottom of your screen, and you can invest points and so forth in the crafting. So uh, I'm not going to go through what everything means. You can read that on your own. There's crafting guides and so forth prevalently available. So what it does mean is though is that it you're not limited to just your one character. So the first thing I want to let you know about is the banking system. Now I happen to have I purchased with the Crown Store my own banker, which you can pop out at
Hello there.
literally any time. But don't let that limit you. You can run to a bank. Most towns have a bank. So the banker shares your through your account. That's the first thing I didn't know starting out is it's a shared bank at all times. So if you increase your bank space on one character, either by purchasing it through the Crown Store or purchasing it through the in-game gold currencies, which tends to start building an expense. It's across your account, so that is an amazing savings, so to speak, because all your characters can use that space. So you can start killing stuff on one tune, put it in your bank that you want to deconstruct or stuff you want to research, and then load up your other tune that is your crafter, say, and or just another. Say you want to make another character, you didn't like the character, but now you have this gear and so forth. Trade, you can move the gear to your new tune, so not a problem there. The next thing is it's a huge system. If you do want to do any sort of crafting whatsoever, what you're going to want to do straight off is start researching traits. So traits are abilities that or enhancements that you add to gear through little crafting stones. So you can build a normal robe using whatever, and it'll be level one. But you can add to it like an experience bonus of 7% and so forth. Use it because I have emeralds, training emeralds. So I know the trait for training. And anyway, so what it does is I have pieces of gear in my inventory that I can research because that piece of gear, if you click on it, I have this light robe that has the infused trait already on it. So what it'll do is it'll break down that trait and then it'll research it for me. And it takes a long time. And as you build more traits, it takes longer. I can research two at a time because I have a passive ability within the traits here that allow you to do two items at once. Eventually, it'll get up to three. I think when you get the third or the fourth rank there, but start doing this immediately. If you have any inkling of crafting at all, as soon as you start getting loot drops, go to each one of the different crafting things and start researching. So I just logged in today, so I need to put the start doing that more on some of the other items. So one of the biggest things for this is not only so you can craft those items that have like say increased experience gain, which by the way is awesome for leveling out, starting to level out. Making your suits always have this training that this all stacks. So my experience gain right here with all this gear, is 70% plus the staff there. So it's amazing. So you want to do that for each of the different crafting types. So blacksmithing, clothing, and so forth. You just want to make sure you build that out. Um, as much as you can. You sometimes you can't choose what you have to do, but I do recommend like training, reinforced, type of things that increase like that you really want, rather than like maybe prosperitas, which increases gold gain, which really isn't a big deal. In the long run, you'll see. So you want to do that for each crafting. The next thing, you don't have to craft again. You can buy stuff, and there's a market. Let me see. I'm doing a little gameplay while I'm recording here. So there's a marketplace, and let's go to that next. Horse. If you buy the one of the editions, you'll have a horse. The way to get your horse is you hit U, go to mounts, and then it'll probably be the Imperial or the Palmo, depending on which expansion pack you get. You double click on that. Your horse gets faster when you train at stables, or if you buy through the good old Crown Store. So that increases not only the speed but the stamina of the pet. You can choose what you want, or carrying capacity. When you do carrying capacity, that increases your own inventory. Inventory is very precious commodity in this game. As you rank up your inventory space by purchasing more inventory space, and it also comes from your mount. I don't have any mount, so forth. Anyway, so
Can I help you?
these guild stores is the auction house similar to World of Warcraft or Rift. This is where players put items for sale. Now, what's inconvenient about this is they have this whole trader guild system, where each one of these stores is one trading guild. So this is only the players within this guild can put on this, so it limits it. It's not a global market. It's only what they put on this, this one vendor from this one guild. So I believe it's contested. They have to fight for it, and that's awesome. So you can look for new items if you have a particular trait you're looking for. You can look for that. Set the level range and whatnot. But there's like level 16 training gear here, so you didn't have to make it usually. But like say this small area is one of the starting areas. It's only going to have one of the guild traders. The guild traders you can see by this icon right here, as opposed to a normal merchant, it has this little shield behind it. So if you go to a bigger area, like one of the main hubs, let me see if I can just go there. This area right here, if we hover over, you see there's 6 or 7 different guild traders there. So that's probably a better bang for your buck if you're searching for specific gear. You can look at each trader, and you do have to look at each trader as they don't share inventory. So that's another thing. So let's talk about your combat skills now. When you start off the game, you're gonna have a few skill points. After you go through the tutorial, by the time you're like level 3, which shouldn't take you very long, you'll have 3 or 4 skill points. So what you want to do, don't mind this character. like I said, I de-invested all of my skill points and reinvested it all in crafting, as I'm only doing that in this character now. But what you can do is you want to each one of these skill lines, you're going to have this first top skill ability in the active abilities. You want to train that and put it on your bar for each one of these within your class, regardless of your spec and whatever, because you want to level that skill line for future use, and you're only going to level in the skill line if you have one of these abilities slotted in the bar as you're fighting things or questing and so forth. The next thing is your weapons. It acts the same way, although if you are using the weapon itself, like you have it equipped, that will also gain, but you'll also gain when you have it on your bar. So even if I was using a destruction staff and I put a bow ability on my bar, I'd start gaining bow ability, even though I'm not using the bow. But it's a little trick. You can use the ability, but you can gain skill in it. And so before you hit level 15, you can only use one weapon at a time. You physically have to change out weapons. So depending on what you're doing, whether the two main things is you're either magicka or your stamina. You don't. There's not really a room for hybrid, um, just due to how the damage scales with the stat distribution that you're doing. So this tune was a magic build, so I'm investing all in magicka. As you increase magicka, it increases the damage that you do with your spells. It'll increase spell damage and so forth. Um, so that's really key to those abilities. So if you read an ability and it says it uses, if you look under this cost stamina, that means it's a stamina ability. So it's going to scale off of your stamina, whereas you will have other abilities that scale off of magicka. So it's really important to pick one or the other. Typically, that this isn't 100% because this game is a bit flexible. If you're a melee build, where you want to use dual wielding, two-handed swords, bows, you're a stamina build. Um, and you want to make sure that you gain class skills that really synergize with stamina, not magicka. Now, what you'll find when you first start out is all of these are magicka. What's going on? I can't have a stamina character as a Templar. No, it's not true. They do start as magicka, but they'll eventually, some of them have different attributes that you can modify them. Um, and here I'll give you an example. I'll waste some points on this one. So you modify this, and then you because I've actually ranked these up even after I respect them. You don't lose that progress, by the way, if you do respect, which is great. Um, so this is called a modifier. When once you get to a certain level in the skill, you've used it enough, you can modify it. And look at that. It goes from a magicka ability, as you see from the cost, to a stamina ability. Now you can also stay magicka, and you get different modifiers and so forth. So you can use this ability, even though it started off as magicka, in a stamina build, because it has a stamina modifier once you rank it up. And so you really do need to research a little bit. There's skill calculators and so forth. Let me bring that up for you here. So this ESOskills.com is wonderful. It looks really, it's got its ads and so forth, but when you start off, you pick a class, and so in this case, I'm using a Templar, and so you can look at the skill line, and then this is the one we were just looking at, and you can see, okay, you read the cost. Oh, it's stamina. It even tells you in the green text at the bottom, converts to a stamina ability, and it also increases. This particular modifier will increase your weapon critical when used. This one will heal you for a percent of the damage, and is magic ability. I was using magicka, and so I chose this particular modifier while I was doing my magic build, because it started healing me for the damage I was doing, so it was a good sustainability for soloing and so forth. and so there's a lot of cool abilities like that. So really try to research a little bit about your own class skills and which ones do turn into stamina, and which ones don't, because some just won't be worth it. If you, particularly if you're really wanting to stay with the stamina build. Now, if you're a magic build, there are melee abilities such as the spear one that even in the magic form, it's still a melee ability. It doesn't have a range. So there's even builds where it's magicka and you're a mage, but you can stay within that melee range, or you'll have to actually to use your abilities. But there's also ones that the spear is really awesome. It has range, does AE and so forth. So that's really good. So the next thing that limits you in the game, unfortunately, is the armor type. So if you're a magicka, DPS, for instance, because healers are a little bit more what's the word that I want to use? A little bit more flexible. Some people like a heavy armored healer because they don't want to die as quickly and so forth. But for DPS, usually it's glass cannon. Magicka, you'll see recovery is all. There's everything's about like Magicka in here, decreasing the cost, and so forth. So in ESO, one of the biggest choices is what type of armor you're going to use, and it's usually based on if you're magic or stamina. As you see, there's not really a lot of this is spell damage again. This is all magicka based. Whereas when you get into medium armor, it starts being all weapon damage, weapon critical. When it says weapon, that means stamina. When it says spell, it means magicka. So weapon critical, this increases stamina. Stamina more, or this was a sneak actually, but weapon damage, and so forth. It's not really, but there, as you see, there's synergy. So for your stamina build, you want to start investing in medium armor or heavy armor if you want to be a little bit more tanky. There is certain little synergies. This one actually restores both magical and stamina when you're hit, so it's good for there is builds for like a tank build that does use magica instead of stamina. It actually is really good for tanks because stamina, you use stamina block, so that's using the same resource that you want to use attacks and so forth. So if you're magicka based but have some stamina, you can still block with stamina and use magicka as the spender for your skills. And anyway, health and so forth. So there's some synergy there with magicka and stamina, but usually if you're a DPS, which most people start out trying to do, but again, tank line obviously heavy and so forth. So that's something you really want to look at. There's this guild called Undaunted. Don't have it on this character. But the Undaunted has a specific line where if you use five slots of one particular ability, and the other slots are others, then it has a bonus. But traditionally, if you want to go heavy into those, you definitely want five or more. I think the meta right now is doing five and two in the other using the Undaunted line. But you can go all in and get more bonuses to those passives that do it per piece. So that's, like I said, really big thing to look at. Let's see. So the guild, the Undaunted, it's this this one and this one. Nah, just this one. So this is increases by having each type that you have equipped. So
Help!
3 is the total, that you can get. So you can get 6% increase to your health, magicka, and stamina if you use all three item types. So what that means is you get like heavy armor shoulders, but medium armor hands, and then say light helm or something like that. Usually the lowest modifier will be your waist, I believe. It'll have the least amount of effect in the armor if you're putting like a light armor piece to get that. But right now I'm actually just using 2 heavy pieces and then the rest medium. And so that's another thing with armor is whatever you have equipped, that's what you're gonna gain. So I'm gaining heavy in I have not done any light armor. Just because I don't really care to get any of the stuff. Although I'm sure it'll help when you have one piece. You'll get 2% recovery if you're. This is a stamina build, by the way. This guy. Shouldn't put points into. Why am I not putting points into health? Most DPSers don't really. They sometimes you can start getting add-ons to your enchantments and just add health that way, while investing deeply into stamina for doing more damage and so forth as a DPS. Usually it's just going to be tanks that invest in health. That's the meta. You can play how you want. I'm not going to tell you how to play. I'm just telling you what's people have found to be the most effective. So yeah. So this is where stamina starts getting like weapon damage is higher than your spell damage and so forth. Anyway, so that I just want to do some really quick things. Another thing is add-ons. Really recommend using add-ons. On this tune, I turned off a lot of my add-ons because I was doing like a really immersive gameplay kind of video at the time. I should have even turned off the quest things, but one of the best add-ons I found was just the advanced UI for like an all-in-one kind of UI, because it has a mini map. It has really like different things that you can change, like your health bars and so forth. This may not be as immersive as you want, and you can change that. You just go into settings and the add-on, and like say this is the unit frames. You can turn off the indicators and when they show up and so forth. So anyway, but I really like the mini map over here. It's quite good, and you can move these wherever you want. So it's good elements. So that's all I want to show you today. Just kind of giving you a really trying to be quick about it. Deep dive into some of the features that weren't super apparent when I first started out. Also, repair your armor. That's every so often you'll need to repair your armor, and you can tell by the blue bar on these. There are add-ons that will do that for you and will alert you. I think it's this one. Belter on this one too, just to make sure I get it. One of those two, it has a really cool gauge, but it's kind of like a Titan plate up here, and I'm at 88% armor. So anyway, it also looks at your weapon enhance and that you have to do. Anyway, that starts getting way more into things than I was just wanting to do a quick one. So thank you for watching, and thank you for not making fun of every time I say or like. Thank you. Bye. Oh, like, subscribe. If you enjoyed the content and whatnot. Um, probably didn't help you, but hey, have a good day.